Welcome to Untold Chronicles, where we embark on a journey through the intellectual landscape of one of history's greatest minds, Aristotle. In this captivating exploration, we delve into the life, works, and enduring influence of the ancient Greek philosopher. From his early days as a student of Plato to becoming the founder of the Lyceum, Aristotle's legacy resonates through centuries. Join us as we unravel the layers of his profound contributions to logic, ethics, metaphysics, and more. Get ready to step into the world of Aristotle, a towering figure in ancient Greek philosophy. Aristotle is a towering figure in ancient Greek philosophy, who made important contributions to logic, criticism, rhetoric, physics, biology, psychology, mathematics, metaphysics, ethics, and politics. He was a student of Plato for 20 years but is famous for rejecting Plato's theory of forms. He was more empirically minded than both Plato and Plato's teacher, Socrates. A prolific writer, lecturer, and polymath, Aristotle radically transformed most of the topics he investigated. In his lifetime, he wrote dialogues and as many as 200 treatises, of which only 31 survive. These works are in the form of lecture notes and draft manuscripts never intended for general readership. Nevertheless, they are the earliest complete philosophical treatises we still possess. As the father of Western logic, Aristotle was the first to develop a formal system for reasoning. He observed that the deductive validity of any argument can be determined by its structure rather than its content. For example, in the syllogism, "All men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore, Socrates is mortal." Even if the content of the argument were changed from being about Socrates to being about someone else, because of its structure, as long as the premises are true, then the conclusion must also be true. Aristotelian logic dominated until the rise of modern propositional logic and predicate logic 2,000 years later. The emphasis on good reasoning serves as the backdrop for Aristotle's other investigations. In his natural philosophy, Aristotle combines logic with observation to make general, causal claims. For example, in his biology, Aristotle uses the concept of species to make empirical claims about the functions and behavior of individual animals. However, as revealed in his psychological works, Aristotle is no reductive materialist. Instead, he thinks of the body as the matter, and the psyche as the form of each living animal. Though his natural scientific work is firmly based on observation, Aristotle also recognizes the possibility of knowledge that is not empirical. In his Metaphysics, he claims that there must be a separate and unchanging being that is the source of all other beings. In his Ethics, he holds that it is only by becoming excellent that one could achieve eudaimonia, a sort of happiness or blessedness that constitutes the best kind of human life. Aristotle was the founder of the Lyceum, a school based in Athens, Greece, and he was the first of the Peripatetics, his followers from the Lyceum. Aristotle's works exerted tremendous influence on ancient and medieval thought and continue to inspire philosophers to this day. Aristotle's early life. Aristotle was born in 384 BC in Stagira in northern Greece. Both of his parents were members of traditional medical families, and his father, Nicomachus, served as court physician to King Amyntas III of Macedonia. His parents died while he was young, and he was likely raised at his family's home in Stagira. At age 17 he was sent to Athens to enroll in Plato's academy. He spent 20 years as a student and teacher at the school, emerging with both a great respect and a good deal of criticism for his teacher's theories. Plato's own later writings, in which he softened some earlier positions, likely bear the mark of repeated discussions with his most gifted student. Did you know? Aristotle's surviving works were likely meant as lecture notes rather than literature, and his now lost writings were apparently of much better quality. The Roman philosopher Cicero said that, if Plato's prose was silver, Aristotle's was a flowing river of gold. When Plato died in 347, control of the academy passed to his nephew Speusippus. Aristotle left Athens soon after, though it is not clear whether frustrations at the academy or political difficulties due to his family's Macedonian connections hastened his exit. He spent 5 years on the coast of Asia Minor as a guest of former students at Assos and Lesbos. It was here that he undertook his pioneering research into marine biology and married his wife Pythias, with whom he had his only daughter, also named Pythias. In 342 Aristotle was summoned to Macedonia by King Philip II to tutor his son, the future Alexander the Great, a meeting of great historical figures that, in the words of one modern commentator, made remarkably little impact on either of them. Aristotle and the Lyceum. Aristotle returned to Athens in 335 BC. As an alien, he couldn't own property, so he rented space in the Lyceum, a former wrestling school outside the city. Like Plato's academy, the Lyceum attracted students from throughout the Greek world and developed a curriculum centered on its founder's teachings. In accordance with Aristotle's principle of surveying the writings of others as part of the philosophical process, the Lyceum assembled a collection of manuscripts that comprised one of the world's first great libraries. Aristotle's works. It was at the Lyceum that Aristotle probably composed most of his approximately 200 works, of which only 31 survive. In style, his known works are dense and almost jumbled, suggesting that they were lecture notes for internal use at his school. The surviving works of Aristotle are grouped into 4 categories. The Organon is a set of writings that provide a logical toolkit for use in any philosophical or scientific investigation. Next come Aristotle's theoretical works, most famously his treatises on animals, parts of animals, movement of animals, etc., cosmology, the physics, a basic inquiry about the nature of matter and change, and the metaphysics, a quasi-theological investigation of existence itself. Third are Aristotle's so-called practical works, notably the Nicomachean Ethics and Politics, both deep investigations into the nature of human flourishing on the individual, familial and societal levels. Finally, his Rhetoric and Poetics examine the finished products of human productivity, including what makes for a convincing argument and how a well-wrought tragedy can instill cathartic fear and pity. The Organon. The Organon, Latin for instrument, is a series of Aristotle's works on logic, what he himself would call analytics, put together around 40 BC by Andronicus of Rhodes and his followers. The set of 6 books includes categories on interpretation, prior analytics, posterior analytics, topics, and on sophistical refutations. The Organon contains Aristotle's work on syllogisms, from the Greek syllogismos, or conclusions, a form of reasoning in which a conclusion is drawn from 2 assumed premises. For example, all men are mortal, all Greeks are men, therefore all Greeks are mortal. Metaphysics. Aristotle's Metaphysics, written quite literally after his Physics, studies the nature of existence. He called metaphysics the first philosophy, or wisdom. His primary area of focus was being qua being, which examined what can be said about being based on what it is, not because of any particular qualities it may have. In Metaphysics, Aristotle also muses on causation, form, matter and even a logic-based argument for the existence of God. Rhetoric. To Aristotle, rhetoric is the faculty of observing in any given case the available means of persuasion. He identified 3 main methods of rhetoric: ethos, ethics, pathos, emotional, and logos, logic. He also broke rhetoric into types of speeches: epideictic, ceremonial, forensic, judicial, and deliberative, where the audience is required to reach a verdict. His groundbreaking work in this field earned him the nickname, the father of rhetoric. Poetics. Aristotle's Poetics was composed around 330 BC and is the earliest extant work of dramatic theory. It is often interpreted as a rebuttal to his teacher Plato's argument that poetry is morally suspect and should therefore be expunged from a perfect society. Aristotle takes a different approach, analyzing the purpose of poetry. He argues that creative endeavors like poetry and theater provides catharsis, or the beneficial purging of emotions through art. Aristotle's death and legacy. After the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC, anti-Macedonian sentiment again forced Aristotle to flee Athens. He died a little north of the city in 322, of a digestive complaint. He asked to be buried next to his wife, who had died some years before. In his last years he had a relationship with his slave Harpillus, who bore him Nicomachus, the son for whom his great ethical treatise is named. Aristotle's favored students took over the Lyceum, but within a few decades the school's influence had faded in comparison to the rival academy. For several generations Aristotle's works were all but forgotten. The historian Strabo says they were stored for centuries in a moldy cellar in Asia Minor before their rediscovery in the 1st century BC, though it is unlikely that these were the only copies. In 30 BC Andronicus of Rhodes grouped and edited Aristotle's remaining works in what became the basis for all later editions. After the fall of Rome, Aristotle was still read in Byzantium and became well known in the Islamic world, where thinkers like Avicenna, 970-1037, Averroes, 1126-1204, and the Jewish scholar Maimonides, 1134-1204, revitalized Aristotle's logical and scientific precepts. Aristotle in the Middle Ages and beyond. In the 13th century, Aristotle was reintroduced to the West through the work of Albertus Magnus and especially Thomas Aquinas, whose brilliant synthesis of Aristotelian and Christian thought provided a bedrock for late medieval Catholic philosophy, theology and science. Aristotle's universal influence waned somewhat during the Renaissance and Reformation, as religious and scientific reformers questioned the way the Catholic Church had subsumed his precepts. Scientists like Galileo and Copernicus disproved his geocentric model of the solar system, while anatomists such as William Harvey dismantled many of his biological theories. However, even today, Aristotle's work remains a significant starting point for any argument in the fields of logic, aesthetics, political theory and ethics. Thank you for joining us on this intellectual voyage into the life and philosophy of Aristotle. If you found this exploration enlightening, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with fellow knowledge seekers, and subscribe for more deep dives into history, philosophy, and beyond. What are your thoughts on Aristotle's impact? Let us know in the comments below, and feel free to suggest other historical figures or topics you'd like us to cover in future videos. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep expanding your understanding of the world. This is Wiki, signing off.